Good evening, everyone.
Can you hear us? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, Dr. Kumar.
Good evening, everyone.
Wonderful. So, sir, I'm perhaps stating the obvious here, but given the conventional ways of thinking amongst all relevant stakeholders in the education ecosystem, be it parents, employers, or the students themselves, right? Liberal arts as an education discipline often takes the back seat. My question is that perception beginning to change, and what will it take to do so?
Yeah, so liberal art education is kind of new to India, and more and more people are becoming aware of it because of the global exposure. So now most students, parents, they realize that you don't need to be engineer and doctors to succeed in life. They see
Right.
Steve Jobs, Reed Hastings, Neil.
You know, absolutely drills home that skill set, that ability, and that mindset. But when you look at recruitment put into practice, they often associate critical thinking with those that have exclusively a technical background. So how can universities such as yours help essentially bridge that gap such that those who have the sharpest critical thinking skills are not under the misconception of strictly being of a technical background?
Yes, so a more symbiotic relationship developing between universities and industries now. Critical thinking, no matter which field you are in, it's very much needed. But when it comes to recruitment by industries, they are looking at soft skills that liberal art plays very critical role in inculcating. So in that sense, we are on the same page. I feel because of the technological advancement, the cost of acquiring information has gone down. And because of more and more stakeholders, they are becoming aware of what is needed to succeed in life.
Sir, I'm so glad you brought that up, because another often overlooked aspect of a liberal arts education is ethical thinking. Correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, it's the softer skills and that ethical mindset that enables Indian graduates to better compete on the global stage. So, could you perhaps define a liberal arts education in the most human of terms, in terms of its innately human intrinsic value? Because I think that is the most convincing argument for why India needs to put a liberal arts education center stage rather than it be simply brewing in the background.
Yes, so liberal art education actually is going to become very, very indispensable in the world of AI, where most of the routine tasks will be done by technologies and
right.
robots. So I feel like, once liberal art education will start to be nourished by India's civilizational wisdom, India will create a higher education ecosystem that
Right.
will be quite good. So that nourishment is slowly coming in, but it will start to accelerate as more and more people become aware about the need for liberal arts.
Well, sir, I'm so glad you said that, because India is, of course, home to the second largest talent pool when it comes to artificial intelligence. And in many circles, it's our country's technology prowess that is putting us on the map. Correct? But it's essentially a double-edged sword, because while we can all become proficient users of AI, we also need to become evaluators of what the artificial intelligence, particularly Gen AI, is providing us. So could you help distinguish between the very fundamental skill sets that a liberal arts education provides and how any amount of artificial intelligence proficiency can simply not meet or fill that gap?
Yeah, so there are certain human elements. So I ask this question to my students when I teach them that,
Right.
How much money do I need to pay you to turn you into a robot? And most students, they will quote either very high number, like $1 billion, or they will say that no money is sufficient for them to agree to become a robot. So that's where the human elements become very, very salient. The element, like in your sense of beauty, the sense of awe.
Right.
These things that liberal art education actually helps you to inculcate, because fundamentally liberal art education is about looking at any problem from many different angles. And no story does more justice to that than the story of Buddhist Jatakas, of 7 blind men and elephant. So liberal art fundamentally is about integrating knowledge from different vantage points. And in the kind of world that we are getting in, that is going to be the most critical skill set that will be valued in the labor market.
Sir, I love that you just brought up an anecdote, because the proof is in the pudding, and all of a sudden we have a very relatable example, right? But how do your conversations with students typically go who continue to remain unconvinced when it comes to liberal arts? How do you essentially win them over? What is that winning fundamental underlying argument that helps them see the other side of the equation?
So because liberal art education approach to, it's an approach, it's not a field of study, you know. So what the example that I give to student is, this life is magical.
Right.
And only way you are going to experience that if you can look at life from many different angles. And that's exactly what liberal art education helps you to do. So many students, like, you know, once they take my classes, so I designed a class at Bennett University where I'm Dean of the School of Liberal Arts, the art and science of inquiry. So given that knowledge, access to knowledge, that problem has been solved. Anyone with a mobile phone can access all sort of knowledge that has been created. So main skill set that is going to be very important is your ability to ask questions and ability to live with unanswered and unanswerable questions. And that's what creates magic.
Well, sir, I'm going to come at you with a difficult question then, because I think the need of the hour is perhaps for liberal arts as an approach to be better integrated in STEM fields of study. But it's all easier said than done. Mm-hmm. So what's your approach to that integration within the 4 walls of Bennett University and beyond? How do you integrate humanities with science, mathematics, and technology study?
So I think at Bennett University, we might have launched one of the most audacious intervention in higher education ecosystem in the world.
Right.
So as soon as a new student gets in the campus, we place them into an interdisciplinary team. In a team where the students from humanities, from computer science, from natural sciences, they all come in. And once they are sitting together, because in Indian education system, by the time you are senior secondary school, you have decided the stream.
Right.
And we need to break that if you really want them to know how to solve a problem. Look at the pollution level in Delhi. Why are we not able to solve this problem? Like, we are facing this problem for the last so many years.
Correct.
Because we are not able to look at the problem from many different angles. And when you don't have capacity to look at the problem from many different angles, what you do is you indulge in blame game. So that's what's going on. So liberal art education is very much needed to solve the problems that India is facing.
So again, a beautiful example that none of us can deny. And so I think when it comes to AI, and given that we're all living in the ChatGPT era, of course, one needs to be digitally literate and, be proficient with prompt engineering, if I could call it that. But how does that essential background in liberal arts help bridge the gap when it comes to AI oversight? Because, sir, as ChatGPT, for example, continues to spit out beautiful essays or remarkable debate, right, or literature analyses, we can't simply take it at face value. There needs to be an AI evaluator component, just as there is a user component. Where does the liberal arts education fit in?
Yeah, so one of the focus area of liberal arts education is critical thinking. So if the students are well equipped with that, they will automatically see the reliance on ChatGPT to solve their problems,
right,
do their homework, is not going to help them. So if their critical thinking is shallow, they are going to depend on ChatGPT.
Correct.
If critical thinking is deep, they will realize that it's going to harm them. And above that, we need to create a structure that veers the students away from reliance on ChatGPT, because a lot of research is coming out that how harmful it can be when it comes to your writing skills. So at Bennett, what we have done is we provide, to first-year students, we provide a logbook where they do the writing exercise in team.
With no assistance from ChatGPT.
Yes. Right. So it's not attached to any technology and all. The team come together and they write about the many kind of reflective activities that we give to them. So we need to create a structure that really helps the student not to rely on, also understand the harms that over-reliance on AI can cause to them. We cannot wish over AI away. They're going to be embedded in our life. So better we should create a structure that helps us to deal with that.
Well, sir, the structure that you've just described, it's not conventional pedagogy in that it requires an environment that inspires debate, right? Perhaps even better teacher-student ratios, perhaps more attention within the classroom, greater focus on some of the finer nuances. So in many ways, there is a different approach altogether if we're going to make this mainstream. How practical is it, and what is it going to take to implement?
So to answer that question, I will bring in the insight that our ancestors had.
Please, sir.
That when it comes to your learning, 1/3 you learn from yourself, 1/3 you learn from your peers and your friends, 1/3 you learn from the world.
The world.
So once you leverage that kind of framework, you will realize that learning is not just happening in the classroom, it's also happening in who they are living with, what they are doing in the campus and outside the campus.
Right.
So we are embedding internship, we are developing partnership with different industries, and more focus, given that age that they are in when they are coming into the university, is helping them build a peer group that is in accordance with their nature, so that their learning can be optimized. So all these structural interventions that we need to do in order to prepare India to tackle AI and leverage it rather than getting leveraged by AI.
Well, sir, since you brought it up, and you brought up the India scenario, you've traveled the world, you've studied education models abroad. What are perhaps some best practices from global counterparts that you think might be particularly effective for the Indian education landscape as you know it?
Yeah, so real-world exposure that I told you earlier, because the acquisition of information cost has gone down.
Dramatically.
More and more people are realizing what is needed to succeed in life. The right kind of changes are already in offering, What we need to do is get a student excited about identifying the problem and having the basic skill set. So I lived abroad for 22 years. For the last 3 years, I've been in India. And one of the core problems that I see in Indian students is their ability to write is not very good. Even I'm talking about the students who are doing undergrad. Yes, so I feel like we can take a lead by helping them on that count. By creating different incentive structure, different programs. So again, here I feel like at Bennett we are going to kind of define the kind of intervention that we need in order to bring our student up to the par with the global standard.
Well, sir, might you be able to share an anecdote of how, after embracing the path of liberal arts, or perhaps something as simple as a liberal arts course, that you've seen a particularly pivotal change in the student's trajectory of success, be it on a personal level or a professional level?
Yeah, so in India especially, students who are coming out of COVID era, they are deeply interested in working of human mind. So the demand for psychology has gone up, and students I see getting quite interested in going deeper into that area. Another area that is going to see a huge increase in demand is economics, because economics is almost everywhere. Like just a few days back, we were interacting with Professor Geeta Gopinathan at Harvard University.
Correct.
And she was talking about how prevalent economics is when it comes to understanding the world we are living in. So these standard courses, the way we are delivering it, if a real-world exposure are embedded into the class, if they have more exposure to the outside world, and especially at the age at which they are with us, if they can. So our mind is a goal-seeking entity. So if we can give them a goal, if we can help them get acquainted with the problems that are there around them on which they can work, that's the best way you can help them appreciate what liberal art has to bring on the table, because it's the capacity to look at the problem from many different angles.
I think, Professor and Dr. Kumar, you've summarized it beautifully. But a final question for you. So I think the larger agenda that matters most to us is nation building, correct? We hope that our efforts in a personal capacity or in a professional capacity is leading towards the creation of more socially upright citizens that are future ready, that are ethically sound, that care to give back. They've developed that sentiment to essentially look back at where they come from, and as they continue to march forward, never forget it. How might a liberal arts education essentially help accelerate that agenda?
Yeah, so I mentioned that earlier, that as soon as, so liberal art, in my assessment, was not liberal enough in the Western countries. You know, if it would have been liberal enough in the Western country, it would not have get politicized the way it became. In India, once liberal art education start to get nourished by the India civilizational wisdom, the kind of liberal art education, the kind of higher education ecosystem that we can create, I don't think any other country can create that. So after living away from India for 22 years, when I came back, the reason I came back was because I saw that potential in India. You know, this is the land of seekers, and higher education system is nothing but promoting and encouraging your ability to understand. So I always give this example to students that if I'll put all of you on the sun, you can't even see the earth. Earth is like a dot. So we are living on such a big world. So what kind of system we can create so that we can understand that magic that comes with going after the questions? So once we can do that, India will become very, very strong. Because I tell my students, one of the reasons we are struggling in India is because we are not asking sufficient number of good, meaningful questions. Liberal art is all about that.
Sir, I think you've absolutely identified the root of the problem. And say, as one final question, please, if we were to fast forward 20 to 30 years from now, let's fast forward perhaps to that Viksit Bharat 2047 year. In that day and age, you know, how mainstream will embracing liberal arts education become, embracing humanities, not simply at an educational level, but on a professional level? You know, to what degree do you expect the Indian mindset and misconceptions or preconceived notions around liberal arts education to change? 2047, sir, how liberal are we?
So, you know, my intuition is that because of the digital public infrastructure, Indian economy is reconfiguring below the radar. So before even 2047, India is heading toward an inflection point that we are not able to see. But if you see the kind of excitement that, so we are at School of Liberal Art, we are organizing a conference, a small conference in Sitamarhi, Bihar, just to go see, like, you know, how these things have transformed these areas. So by 2047, people will understand that holistic education is the way to go. The kind of education system that we have had across the world has not really helped us, because most of the time the focus was on professional education, vocational education, at the cost of holism. So by 2047, I think all of us will be very, very well informed, and we will move our kids and children towards a more holistic education.
Well, look, Professor Kumar, all of this is so heartening to hear. And, you know, the brain drain is very much a real phenomenon. It takes a lot for an icon in the education industry to have lived abroad for so many years and returned back to his homeland to make a difference. We salute you, we applaud everything that you're doing, and we can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Huge round of applause. Huge round.